There's nothing like cracking that cellophane and pulling that record out. It just smells great.
Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Non-stop hardcore energy.
I love the show, guys. You're awesome.
Unlike any other.
With your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bod Father.
Man, this stuff rocks.
This is Anders from Cadaver. You're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
The views and opinions of the guests do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of BODS Mayhem Hour, its staff, affiliates, or sponsors. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I'm your host, John the Bod, aka the Bod Father, and as always, I bring you guys and gals awesome interviews, and I'll just let you guys know this right now. Norwegian death metalers Cadaver will unleash their sixth studio album entitled The Age of the Offended on July 21st via Nuclear Blast Records. Also, Cadaver has released the second single from the album entitled Scum of the Earth. And check out the very first single off this album, The Age of the Offended. Also, I want to welcome back a good friend of mine, Mr. Anders Odden of Cadaver. And let's talk about this bad boy. So how you doing, Anders?
I'm doing great. Thank you. It's good to see you.
Yeah, man, glad to have you back. So we're going to jump back here about 2 years ago, because in 2020, you guys released your first full-length album in 15 years entitled Eder and Bile. And now we're getting another album, The Age of the Offended, set to release on July 21st. How good does it feel to not have that huge gap? Now we've got that little tiny gap now.
Yeah, it feels really great. I mean, it's an ongoing process all the time to make new music and new albums, and it takes the time it takes. But having that long gap made me realize that why not just gear things up, because we have so much new ideas and new material. So let's just move on and try to outdo ourselves every time, which is the aim for any band. But I think we really did that without doubt. This is the best album I think we ever done. So I hope that people recognize it.
Okay, so let's talk about this. You've got all these albums in the Cadaver library, but what makes this the best one, man? What do you think that, this tops the table for everything?
Well, to me, it's always about the new album, but it's a different thing to say it this time for me, because a few very important ingredients is on the album. First of all, this is the second album me and Dirk Verbueren wrote together, first of all, and it makes us into 25 songs writing together, and then you create a certain style and vibe, and a little bit more where things can go, but at the same time you don't know where things are going, because you always develop new ideas together on the way there. So that was exciting, and the fact that we got Ronni Le Tekrø to then go into all the songs with his insane guitar playing and make it sound so huge and different and insane that I never thought I would have him on an album, first of all. And this, to me, is like having, I don't know, some divinity coming into play, some musical insanity that I never really expected, and it all fits so well. So I'm really, really proud that he could do that, and it made me much more excited about my own material, listening to it with the flavor of all the parts that goes into it. So it's very exciting for me too to listen to this album.
Did this album turn out exactly the way you guys wanted it to? Was there anything that was left off that you said, we could have added, but no, we didn't?
No, this one has basically everything I wanted. The way it turned out, it was a process that we spent over a year creating, and it felt like all the parts going into it just made it better and better and better. And we took time to be sure that we had everything like we wanted to, but without polishing too much, because that's the wrong thing to do. So there's a lot of raw things going into it, a lot of things we didn't expect, or there's a lot of feeling in this album, which is a very important factor that makes it exciting.
That was going to be my next question, and I'm glad you hit on that about the emotion and the feelings on this. Would you say this album is more angrier and kind of goes back to the Cadaver roots, possibly, or no?
Maybe angry, but also more insane. We were always writing lyrics differently than most death metal bands. More like esoteric, or about the human condition. The insanity of just being a human being in the world, and everything you face, and all the internal fights within you, and everything that goes on, emotionally through one's life, and trying to capture all the darkest parts, but also things that can uplift you from things. I think the pandemic made everybody realize how boredom works again, and to me, boredom was always the treasure to go to be creative and create something. When if you're bored, it just means that you're not entertaining yourself. But now people tend to want to drown themselves in whatever hits your eyes on the phone, or whatever games, or anything that other people do. So I went the other way to figure out what makes me excited about things, and what makes me more excited about music than anything is to just explore the rawness of music, and to just dive into that minefield of creating something that excites me. And if you are able to excite yourself, there's nothing better than self uh, being excited about what you're doing yourself. I think that's a key issue here. If you are really excited about it yourself, you just know that someone else out there might feel the same way.
Oh yeah, for sure. Now you guys rejoined forces with Eilert Solstad and the bass player from In Pains, as well as guitar wizard
Yeah.
Ronni Le Tekrø. How special was it to have them on this album for Cadaver?
I mean, we always wear weird outfits. We always wanted to be a different kind of band, and through the 2020, Eilert came to me and said if I wanted to have a live bass player again to play shows, he would love to rejoin the band. I was kind of surprised because he's been out of music for a long time, and I really wanted to give him a chance. And now, when he's coming up with ideas and things on his own, it's a treasure to have him on board. And it feels like this time there's, lots of bands have original members coming in and out, but now it feels like Cadaver is more linked to the past of the Cadaver and the new Cadaver. So we're now 2 out of 4 people from the old era, and that's more than enough to feel more like the link through the whole history of the band for me.
But how good does it feel though to have that link back, though, so to speak? It's like, yeah, we never missed a beat, man.
No, it's like that. When you've been working with someone closely in a band for some years, it's when you get back together, it feels like the next day, regardless. It feels like
Yeah,
it's natural. So
yeah.
it's like wearing a pair of shoes that you haven't worn for a long time.
Did the band add anything differently, Anders, on this album musically than what fans are accustomed to hearing from Cadaver?
I think it's basically what people are accustomed to hear from Cadaver, but just even more so. We try to emphasize the fact that we always try to make songwriting a little different than everybody else in the scene. We wanted to incorporate more weird stuff like talk box, or double bass, or trombone, or all these kinds of elements that makes different kinds of sounds to fuck up what you hear. So you will listen to this as a metal album, but you can also listen to it as a experimental progressive album, but it still has also a lot of catchiness in the like some chorus lines or some riffs that are really hooking. So we just wanted to give people all the parts that we were, discovered when we founded the band back in '88. We were really inspired by all kinds of things from Slayer to Voivod to Napalm Death to Carcass to Morbid Angel to Bathory, Celtic Frost, all those bands have one thing in common. They all sound totally different than everybody else. So
Yeah.
that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to create our own weird, different kind of sounding band that would stand out and hold over time so people could recognize that this I'm hearing that right now is Cadaver. Nothing else can sound like this.
How's the fans' feedback been on the release of these new singles, Scum of the Earth and The Age of the Offended? What are you seeing back, man, that impresses you that the fans are hearing?
No, yeah, I think it's always funny to see how people react to stuff. It's always, right now there's so many generations listening to metal, so that's kind of a new thing for me to relate to people who have no history, like we have, being old. When they hear something, they just connect it to things I never heard about or knew were out there or whatever. But that's how things go, whatever makes you happy. But it seems like people really, really get into it and really like it, what they hear. And the best part is that all the songs are different. So whenever you heard one song and we released another one, that's a different one. And still we have it's 12 songs on the album, so they're all doing their own thing. So I think people would be even more happy to get the whole album and listen to the whole album. And maybe some people have like two, three favorites, or some people have two, three total different favorites, or some people like the whole thing. I don't know. It's all about cherry picking songs now. Anyway, so I don't know, but
Yeah.
I think we have something for a lot of different kinds of audiences right now.
That is very true. That is very true. And I'm glad to see these old bands still around and still adapting and still making their music and standing by it too, because things change and you know that in the music industry. But I'm glad to see these old bands, especially you guys, still kicking ass, man, and still bringing the heaviness to us. So that's very, very in important for me. Thank you all as a band too.
Yeah, thank you.
What led the track "The Age of the Offended" to be that first song released off this album?
Well, it was a discussion between us in the band, but also with the label. But I was always this was actually the last song I wrote for the album. But it's always like that. If you write the last song for the album, tends to be something that capture the whole album somehow. I don't know. It's something about that. So when you realize that this is the last song we put on to this number of songs, it always have a way of just showing the way into the album. So it's just felt right to also use the title track as the first single to make people aware of the title and the concept of the album. So that's a good doorstep into the album.
This was written during the pandemic in 20 and 21. Do you feel this new album had to come out swinging for the band after the pandemic, or no?
No, we always thought that the pandemic would end. Maybe the world would end too, but like right now it feels like the world's, the apocalypse is ongoing. But what can you do? You know,
That's true.
people still need new music. I think everybody during the pandemic pretty much listened to absolutely everything they heard about through their whole life. And it's a good time to get out some new music because a lot of people actually are looking for new music now. It feels like so that's a good way to restart the world. Give the world some new music to get excited about.
All right, so let me ask you this: you've been a musician for many years. I want your opinion on this. There's a lot of bands that come out every single day, and
Yeah.
these bands want to be just as big as anybody else. But do you think that they should have taken advantage, Anders, of the pandemic and put stuff on YouTube, Spotify, and still continue to do that today?
Yeah, I mean, giving advice to what others should do is something I did for a long time, but the older I get, the less I can, teach others about how they should do. Because whenever I've been giving good advice to people, they tend to do something completely different. I don't know if I can even give good advice to anybody right now, because it feels like the only thing you can do as a musician or artist or whatever is to figure out what you do the best yourself and stand by whatever that is. And that's all you can do, but that's also the only thing you should do, just be yourself and figure out what to improve with whatever you want to do, and get it out there, of course, and see what happens. The most important thing is to continue to be creative.
Was there a track for the album that totally ended up sounding different than what it was intended to when it was first brought to the table? Was there one that kept changing or no?
Well, the one that kept changing the most, which was a kind of surprise to me all the way through writing it and figuring it out, was Dissolving Chaos, which is based on a riff that Eilert Solstad came up with, the beginning of the song. And the way that Dirk laid drums on that riff, I didn't hear how that could end up being like that until he came up with all the drums. So it just totally changed my perspective on it. And then when Ronnie came into the same song with talk box leads, it even changed again to something completely different. So it's still a very oddball song on the album, and it's one of those I really enjoy playing, listening to now, because it feels like it's just a total different kind of beast.
I know these are your babies. I understand it completely, but are there any tracks standing out more to you than any right now on this new album?
Well, one of my all-time favorites on the album since we wrote it would be The Drowning Man. I think that one has a lot of things I really appreciate throughout the whole song, which, favorites on the album is kind of changing all the time. That's one of my favorites. Freezing Isolation as well, and the last song on the album.
Any songs that did not make this album we're going to see on another album down the road from you guys, EP, or maybe just a one-off single, possibly, or no?
Well, we have several other things in the pipeline. Actually, there's now what I should do next now is to finally get some of the old stuff reissued and re-released, because I haven't really had time to do that because of this album. But I think we have a lot of archive stuff we want to do and get out there. We have some unheard recordings from the way back in the day. So there's a archive work to be done, but we have a lot of new ideas as well. But I think right now I'm gonna sit a little still in the boat, see what this album does, do my archive things and get things out there, and then move on to whatever is the seventh album of the album of the Cadaver career. Yeah.
So is there any songs that's not ever been played live that you want to eventually get into that set list or no?
Yeah, we actually just started to rehearse the material on this album. So right now we're in the beginning of putting things together to make it a live approach, and that's always it's a challenge to figure out how to do that. But it's actually one of the favorite things to do right now for me, to actually play these songs in a live setting. So we'll do some shows in Scandinavia this fall, and we're looking at festivals and stuff next year, maybe a tour. I don't know. Right now, it just feels like we have to get the album out and then see what happens to it. Yeah.
Is the track listing placement important for Cadaver's albums or your EP releases when you get these out? Or do you want these in a specific order or what?
Yeah, it's actually Dirk is a very good collaborator when it comes to the how the order of the songs are. I always have some ideas, and then he twists them around, and we always come up with a good solution in the end. But it's right now people listen to albums in a different way than we used to. But I mean, I have the I have the vinyl right here. You know, see
Yep.
that?
Yes, sir.
So I just listened to that a couple of times, and it feels like a great journey to go into as an album. The order of the songs feels like it's meant to be a LP. So it's like when you turn the LP in the old days, it would always be a very monumental song starting on side B, which is the Drowning Man on this one. So I'm really happy about how you know side A and side B works as side A and side B. So we really take our time to figure that out. So it's a very important thing for us actually. So that's also an important thing that the last song on the record, The Freezing Isolation, was one of the songs I wanted to have like really early on the album. Then I realized, if you're an album guy, you want it to be the best track, so you want to turn the album back onto side A. But how people listen to their albums is up to them. But if you really want to enjoy this album, you should listen to it as an album for sure. Yeah.
Dude, I remember those days of getting a cassette tape. You had side A, side B, and I love those days. The smell of the cassette, the CDs and stuff. Those days are slowly missed now. It's like it's a forgotten art in a way.
Yeah, but still, I was in Bergen for a few days on like a vacation, and we bought some albums. This is an album from a Norwegian folk rock band from the 90s, reissued,
Yeah.
that I just bought. This is a very strange record.
Wow.
It's a Norwegian rock outfit, which is really strange. This is an album I bought. See this?
Yeah.
This is from 1980, and it's the first album from a band I really love, like a rockabilly band from the early 80s in Norway. And it's their debut album, and I had this one on cassette when I was 7 years old.
Oh,
And then this one, Jethro Tull.
Jethro Tull. Okay.
Yeah. So, when you're a vinyl collector, it's a good time to go to all these shops and just buy all kinds of things you haven't heard for a long time or didn't know exists. And I try to downscale my record collection, but it always ends up going the other way.
It's hard. It's very hard. You just can't do it, man. It's like I gotta have it.
Yeah, it's one of those stupid things by being, from the old days.
Oh, I got CDs, dude. I got cassettes still. I still listen to them. So
Oh
what
yeah, no, yeah, I actually picked out some CDs to listen to in the car today, and one of them was the Monotheist CD from Celtic Frost. Another one was Altars of Madness for Morbid Angel, and the third one was Arise by Sepultura. So when you all you can just listen to these albums as if they were brand new, and they're all sounding amazing. So it's music is great.
So you guys worked with producer Adair Doffenbach on this album. Did he get did he get something out of you guys that maybe somebody else might not have gotten or what?
He's one of the most musical producers I ever worked with. He is the most musical producer I ever worked with, and I'm really happy that he wants to work with us. And he really come up with the most insane layers of mixing this, because it's so many things we want to cram into one song, and he managed to get everything sounding super clear and super huge. And I'm very happy that he wants to work with us.
So this artwork was done by Flesh Flies, and let me tell you something, folks. If you've not seen this artwork on this Cadaver new album, it is absolutely badass. This is really cool, man. So let's talk about that. Did he get exactly what you all were looking for?
It's a girl, actually. It's a woman.
Oh, okay,
But
okay.
yeah, she's doing collage work, and so you can find her on Instagram, Flesh Flies. And I really love to have this collage artwork as a reminder of how things used to be done in the 80s, especially when there was no Photoshop. You had to make your cover art from things you cut and put on a piece of paper. And to have that as an album cover now makes it also stand out as a more classic thing than having all this Photoshop or AI stuff. So we really wanted to do that very analog and very original, and it came out amazing.
All right, so this next question, we're going to throw out Cadaver out the window. We're just going to focus on you, Anders, specifically. But if you could write an album equivalent to your favorite band's album, which album would that be? I mean, it's got to be your all-time favorite one. Which album would you say, I want to write one just like that?
Oh man, that's a hard one. Now, I mean, if I could ever write an album which would be so important for others that it was for me, it would probably be Under the Sign of the Black Mark by Bathory.
Oh, okay.
That's one of my all-time favorite albums. If I have to pick one, maybe that one or Altars of Madness by Morbid Angel. It's a very hard thing to pick one.
Oh, it is. It is.
If I can make like a cross section between Altars of Madness and Under the Sign of the Black Mark mixed with Into the Pandemonium by Celtic Frost, maybe that probably is where I am.
What's been your most memorable show that Cadaver has been a part of that you still can't believe that still to this day that it tops your list? Like I still can't believe we were a part of that.
Man, that's a hard one to pick out. But maybe it would be like back in the day in 1990, we played a show together with Dark Throne in Oslo. And after we all played, the whole Mayhem lineup with Dead was in the room, and they asked if they could play some songs. And they just borrowed our equipment, and we had like Mayhem on the fly playing 4 or 5 songs, and the audience was maybe like 50 people. And that was how the scene was back then. And they could see Cadaver, Dark Throne, and Mayhem for $5 for no reason in Oslo in 1990.
The things back in the day, so much simpler times, so much great times too.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Anders, my last one for you, my friend. If you could be a member in an iconic band and play one of their legendary shows, which band would it be and what show would it be?
I saw the second to last show with Cliff Burton with Metallica. So if I was to, do that again, I would probably, that would be insane for me to, I don't know which part I would be in Metallica then, but, being the side headbanger. But to be on stage with Cliff Burton would have been amazing.
I gotta ask you, since you've seen him, because that'd have been like, that's one of my all-time favorite things on my bucket list, which will never ever happen now. But when you saw Cliff Burton, what was your first reaction? Did he just overwhelm you? Like, oh my God, look at this guy.
Yeah, I mean, he was such an insane, charismatic musical guy that probably would have made Metallica into the biggest metal band of all time anyway, but with a different kind of flavor. I think he had a lot of things to say about direction artistically, and we never know. But I'm very, very confident that Justice for All would have sounded so much better with his bass and bass at all.
That's the biggest discussion of all time. Should there have been bass? Yes, there should have been a bass.
But I think his bass playing actually his style of bass playing is kind of reinvented by Rob Trujillo, though, because he plays with his fingers. So he's probably the best guy to be out there doing his stuff. But I mean, having seen him and what he did on stage, playing the bass solo thing that he always did, that's what we all remembered from that gig. And it was like he went to Sweden the next day to play a show, and then he died. That's everybody know. Yeah. But this was in the weekend, so I think we came back to school on Monday, and we heard the news that he was dead. It was like, what?
Yeah.
It was just crazy that we just saw this amazing musician on stage 2 days ago, and then now he's gone. It was a very strange time, but I'm very happy that I saw him at his peak, and literally within 48 hours of his death. So I was very lucky.
Folks, Cadaver will unleash their 6th studio album entitled The Age of the Offended on July 21st via Nuclear Blast Records. You definitely want to get out and pick this up and support Cadaver and check out their old stuff too. So Mr. Anders, my friend, how can folks stay in touch with Cadaver, find out exactly what you guys are doing, pick up this album, everything under the sun of Cadaver? How can they do that, sir?
Well, there is something called the internet. just search and you find. No, it's probably the best time of any time to release something, because if you're able to get online, you'll actually find it, which is a huge difference to where I come from in time, back in the 80s, 90s, when we had to tape trade and wait for weeks to get things. Now you can actually go and get things. At the same time, that also makes people totally unaware of the fact that, the struggle to get things was a part of the whole thing. So now when you can get anything you like, it's like drowning in the candy store, it's like, I don't know if it's a good thing to be able to get everything you like all the time, like things are now, but that's where we are. So if you want to listen to something different than everything else you listen to, you can go and check out Cadaver. You find it on Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, whatever, and if you're a collector like we all used to be, you should definitely buy the vinyl, because this one actually sounds really good, surprisingly good, to be a vinyl. So, and if you want CDs, there's CDs too. You just go online and figure it out.
I'll never forget the days of the pain of having to stand there and wait hours before your favorite band's album dropped at a record store. And you have to stand there and wait or go somewhere like that. And then by the time you get up there, they only have like 10 copies left. And you're like, oh shit, am I going to get mine or not? It was like, and you hit the nail on the head right there, man. When you got it, you're like, achievement accomplished. I got my tape, my CD, my vinyl, whatever. But those days, man, are just few far in between now. It's all at your fingertips. But when this podcast or when this interview posts, I will have all these links in this description. So that way nobody can say, I don't know where to go get the Cadaver album or anything. It's right here.
No.
Just click.
Exactly.
That's all you got to do. It's mind blowing, folks. Oh my God. How's it that? It's right there.
Perfect.
Hey, my friend, before I let you go, would you care to do a promo for my show?
Sure. This is Anders from Cadaver. You're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Everybody stick around. We got some great stuff coming up, and you only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour. Remember, this is your number one source for all the great interviews. Trust me. And please go out and check out our Facebook page. It has our podcast link and our YouTube link, and you definitely want to subscribe to that YouTube link if you like what I'm doing, and I hope you guys and gals are. Please get out and check out Cadaver. Pick up this 6th studio album entitled The Age of the Offended on July 21st via Nuclear Blast Records. Give my man a try here, folks. They have some really good, excellent music out there. And like I've said before, it's good to see these old bands still around and kicking ass and still showing these youngins how to do it. So, Anders, thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you.
You're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.